The tall, gangly thing?
Hello and welcome. Today I am joined by currently rank 6 in NA, previously rank 1, and one of the competitors that we're going to be watching in the North American mid-set finale next week. That's GUUBUMS. GUUBUMS, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a fun opportunity.
So in case anyone isn't super familiar with who you are, why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I started playing TFT I started playing in set 1 when kind of like a lot of the league players started playing because it just got announced that Riot was releasing this new game and kind of like a lot of us were really hyped about that. I played in set 1, I didn't get too high rank. I think at the time maybe I might have peaked somewhere in the diamond range. Just playing for fun. I played again in set 2, and then I really started playing when the pandemic hit, which was sometime in set 3, and I was able to hit Challenger then. And then I just kind of pursued it a little bit further, but I didn't get too far. I think I got top 10 maybe once. I think maybe even only just rank 11. And then set 3.5, I didn't play too much. And then set 4 seemed really interesting, so I kind of got back into it. And then that's kind of like when I really found my stride and started to compete more. I ended up competing in the set 4 regionals and doing pretty okay there. Didn't make the last lobby, but I was like somewhat close. And then I guess here I am in set 5. I know, I started my stream recently. I think it's been getting more traction there. So if you guys have heard of me, it's probably through that.
Yep, definitely. And so, we're kind of talking about set 5. Let's kind of lay the groundwork. Going into set 5, a lot of people noted how introducing the armory was going to give more player agency. And coming from Chosen, where you kind of had this Chosen mechanic that forced people to play a certain way, people were super excited about this idea of having more agency, being able to make more choices. Now that we're kind of nearing set 5.5, let's kind of take a look back. Do you feel like set 5 has been a success? Did it live up to the hype?
Truth be told, I actually think maybe set 5 might be slightly worse than set 4 because I really did quite enjoy set 4. And when I say set 4, I really do mean set 4. Because for me personally, I really didn't like set 4.5 all that much. I'm gonna be honest, for most of the set, I was like really hard stuck in GM until the end. I kind of found my stride and started doing better that way. But I would say for the most part, I'm okay with set 5. I think there's still some things to be desired with regards to like competitive. There's some balancing issues here and there for sure. I think vertical trades probably need to be addressed a little bit, especially in the past maybe month or so, couple patches or so, where vertical trades have been really strong. But I'd say moving forward, it seems like it's going to be good. But then once again, we're kind of like running into that problem where, set 5 is just now starting to be, at least in my opinion, feel really good. But kind of like the competitive aspect is almost finished with snapshots wrapping up. And then also we're kind of moving on to the new set. So I'd say it's a success, but it's like it took a little bit too long to maybe get there. And now that we've gotten there, I don't know if like what set 5.5 is going to bring. So hopefully it's good.
Yeah, I know Giant Slayer did announce that there was some sort of duos tournament coming out for 5.5. So even though the competitive circuit may not have a lot going on for 5.5, this is a good opportunity for third-party organizations that aren't Riot affiliated to actually step up and put on a good show. Now, I want to talk a little bit about you as a coach. Since entering the scene, you've talked about it. You've been Challenger. You had a great run at 4.5 regionals. But people have talked about how even though you're a great player, you're a better coach. Let's kind of dissect that. What do you think actually makes a good coach in TFT?
For one, okay, so most of the time when you coach people, or at least most of the time when I coach people, and this is not clients, it's going to be like friends or other high elo players, namely, DQA. We've heard about all these players, Spencer, about all this fun stuff. A lot of time it's live coaching, and the thing is with live coaching is that it's really difficult, and I do say it's a lot worse for learning, but in terms of like if I'm coaching another top player, most of the time they don't have to learn, but it's kind of like spot decision making. So what makes a good coach in terms of like a live coaching thing is one, I'm able to articulate myself, but I also have to be really firm in like how I want to approach like a decision making, because like there's a limited amount of time I have to come up with the decision and I have to relay the decision, and I also have to, especially if it's like something that kind of contrasts with how they play, I have to convey why this decision is good. So it's a lot about like being articulate. And then as for kind of like referring to myself as a better player than as a better coach than I am a player, I think that stems from I kind of do a lot of like Pepega things when I play. Like I'll sell random units. I'll put units in the wrong spot. I'm sure some people have seen the clips and stuff, but I failed to move my units to the right side. There's like a bunch of like stuff going on that I'm not that good on. But in terms of like kind of approaching the game, in terms of like learning how to improve and stuff like that, I tend to think I do better. And then I like to think I'm pretty articulate when I coach people as well. So it kind of all works out.
I think that's like a major selling point for TFT, right? The accessibility of it, where it kind of reduces, if not, it doesn't get rid of it completely, but the micro component of the game, where you don't really need to have crazy mechanics in order to be a high-ranking player.
Yeah, I think that's a relief.
Yeah, for me too. I definitely feel that. Now you qualified for the mid-set finale through the Challenger Series. Can you talk about how different it is playing in the Challenger Series compared to playing on ladder?
Yeah, I think with almost any tournament, it's going to be like a matter of everybody's going to be trying harder. Everybody's going to be like more aware. You're going to have people who are actively scouting every turn. They might actually, look at other people's boards and make decisions based on that. Whereas on ladder, you're less likely to kind of encounter that every game. And within a game, maybe you might not encounter from all 8 players. Whereas in a tournament setting, like it's going to be like that. However, I didn't really approach kind of like Challenger Series any differently than from ladder, other than the fact that I knew that people were going to be kind of like tryharding more. I'm going to be tryharding more, and there's going to just like be more focus. So the players I play against on ladder versus in Challenger Series is roughly the same, like probably like literally the same, right? Just like give or take. Obviously, you may not get all of them in the same lobby, but just you have to approach playing consistently. You should still you are still rewarded greatly for top fouring, for top oneing in a similar way that you would be on ladder. So I kind of just approach it game by game and go from there.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of players who have been able to find great heights in ladder, but haven't been able to produce those same results in tournament. And on the flip side, we've seen players who have had crazy tournament runs, but aren't able to climb on the ladder. How much of that is high roll? Do you think there are other factors that actually play into that?
I always say like TFT is like a mental game. So for example, I don't think TFT has been long enough for this to really happen, but say you consistently do poorly at every tournament you enter, well then the next one, like the nerves might really get to you. So what I will say is like maybe an experienced tourney player oftentimes will do better than like a non-experienced tourney player, and a lot of that will just have to do with like nerves and mental. So I think in TFT a lot of the times if you make like a tilted play, and this is for ladder, true for tourney, everything, if you just make a tilted play, like a not that calculated play, oftentimes the consequences could actually be pretty severe. So I think like if you're approaching a game in a good mental state, generally you'll do fine. And I think that kind of tends to be the difference is that people with, calm nerves, that people that stay grounded tend to do really well in tournaments. Whereas like maybe the more emotional players could slide, like even myself, like if I do get a bot 2, I might like kind of slip and slide through the rest of the tournament. Whereas like at this, kind of conversely, an emotional player might do really well in the first 2 games and then kind of like use that to propel themselves forward with momentum and do well for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, I know, you're talking about experience. Something that comes to mind for me at least is even in set 4.5, set 4, people talked a lot about a lot of these young guys. And you were kind of in that category of player. People would talk about Setsuko, you, Newbowl, Spencer, and there wasn't a ton of success tournament-wise for you guys. But going into set 5, both you and Spencer, and maybe Pakigam is actually in that category as well, are all the 3 qualifiers, are 3 different qualifiers from the Challenger Series. So I think what you're saying is definitely valid, that it comes with experience, that over time you become more and more comfortable and are able to play to your peaks in tournament.
Yep.
So next week, we've got the mid-set finale. And we have 3 different types of players, right? We have the Challenger Series players, we have the Dawnbringer Cup qualifiers, and the Nightbringer Cup qualifiers. So because we have all of these different players coming from different parts of the scene, I want to know what you actually feel about how you feel about the level of competition at this tournament, and what are your expectations coming out of it?
Okay, truth be told, had the tournament been played like during this last week, I actually feel super confident. I'd be very surprised if I didn't at least make it to the last lobby. I don't know exactly what the new patch will bring, which is coming, I think, today at the time of recording. I'm not sure exactly what that'll bring. I don't know how that'll change up the meta, but I still feel like fairly confident. As well as like I think some of the more prominent members of the community, some like the stronger players, namely even people like Newbowl or like Kerm, aren't actually going to be participating in this in this mid-set finale, and that eases my nerves a little bit. Obviously, these are like some really strong competitors. As for people in the coming from the Dawn and Nightbringer Cup, I'm not saying they're bad, but just like the qualifications for getting into those tournaments are obviously slightly lower than the ones getting into Challenger Series. So I think the competition is going to be like slightly easier than, for example, NA regionals in set 4, and it's going to be easier than the NA regionals coming into set 5. which will be later on. Um, I think I should be fine for the tournament. I expect to at least try to make it to the last lobby. Making a top four would be like really good for me, as well as like really good for a lot of my friends in NA who are obviously on the edge of that snapshot place. Because if, for example, I make it into the top four, which gives me an auto slot into the NA regionals, my ladder spot gets given to someone else, and that's going to be really beneficial for someone. I don't know who it might end up being, but it's going to be someone I know, and hopefully I can kind of make it through to get them in.
Do you feel like there's a large skill discrepancy between the players who made it in through Challenger Series and the qualified players through the Cups?
I think it's a skill discrepancy that's like there. As for how it manifests on that game, or sorry, on that day, on the days of the tournament, I'm not sure how that's going to be. But the thing is, like, ladder kind of reflects player skill in the sense that you're playing a lot of games, you're trying to reduce variance as much as possible, whereas tournament play, although it differs in the way that I kind of mentioned earlier, where it's like more focused, more try hard, it still has a very low sample size compared to like ladder performance, which is why for the most part I'm still personally more worried about players that are doing really well on the ladder. But like within the confines of a tournament, since it's like 5 games day to day, you know, I could even think of myself as the best player in the world, but it doesn't matter if on that day either I play poorly or I'm given a poor roll on my dice. Then, well, really, what can you do?
Right, of course. You know, once upon a time, you were one of the new kids on the block, right? We talked about that a little bit earlier. What I would love to know is, now that you've actually been playing the ladder all the time, you've seen all these different people in different tournaments, who are some of these players kind of on the come up that really didn't manifest in tournament performance or even in ladder in set 4?
I've noticed people like, I think Kajevix is like a name that popped up in set 4. He was consistently like pretty high on the ladder, but not quite really at the top. I would say he's in like the top 20, top 15. He most recently won Giant Slayer Series with a whopping 43 points. I mean, he tied with Bert in terms of points, I think, or maybe he might have even been higher. But like they had a large amount of points, and then in contrast, I won with like some 33 because I scammed. I just won at the end, and then that got me in. So yeah, I think he had like a dominant performance at that tournament. I think he actually might have won day one as well. So that's a name that I'm kind of like looking forward to playing again. I think he did pretty well at regionals as well last set. So.
And just a fun fact, he actually, in the 11 games he played at last Challenger Series, he played 8 different comps in 11 games. So just really, really an outstanding performance, showing like his flexibility and ability to make some crazy boards when given the opportunity. So you talked earlier about how you're streaming now. It's been going well from what I've seen. What are your long-term goals with TFT?
Currently, I'm just kind of taking it step by step. I think TFT still has a ways to go before becoming like a real kind of esport, kind of like a competition-based, or sorry, kind of like a competitive game, kind of like a household name. I think for the most part, we probably have to wait until spectator mode comes out to really see kind of where TFT goes. And then with the pandemic kind of winding down, obviously there's going to be a lot of players kind of removing themselves from the game. So with all that in mind, I'm just kind of taking it slowly for now. I'm still looking for a team. Fingers crossed, hopefully I can get signed soon. But like I'm trying to improve my streaming kind of interface and all that fun stuff. And then hopefully if and when TFT, become bigger or blows up, I can be at the forefront of like competing and I can do really well on my stream too. And hopefully that takes me somewhere. Otherwise, I'll probably still, have some, school focused goals, career focused goals that I'm working on. And hopefully I'm just going to try to find a way to balance the two as best as I can.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm rooting for you. That's actually all the questions I had for you. But before we go, is there anything you'd like to shout out?
I normally just shout out Mort Dog at the end of these because I didn't really get the chance to ever really talk to him in set 4. I don't think I was quite there yet with how big I was, how well known I was, or maybe how good I was. But in set 5, he's taken I found the opportunity to like speak to him on multiple occasions, and I find that even if I'm disagreeing with him, it tends to like give me a lot of good perspective on how like game design goes into like manifests itself in TFT, and it's been really fun. And I think he's just doing a lot of good work. I always kind of say the same thing. If you guys recall that one stretch of set 5 where Mort Dog went on vacation, it was kind of a mess, and then when he came back, it got better. Is it at the best it could be? Probably not, but just like any kind of improvement towards that goal, I'm personally happy with. So shout out to Mort Dog, shout out to the TFT team. And shout out to my friends and fans who have helped make my stream kind of work well. So, yeah,
great. Well, thank you, GUUBUMS, again for joining me today, and thank you to everyone who's watched this interview all the way through. For more TFT content and coverage, make sure you guys subscribe, and I'll see you next time.